March, I wanted to do a flip through of my February pages in my Midori Hibino because it was a bit of an atypical month. I was pretty sick for quite a bit of February, and that resulted in a lot of blank pages. And now that we are a couple of weeks into March, I thought I would show you how the pages turned out, because in the end I was able to fill them up in different ways, and I thought it would be interesting to show you how that happened, even though it happened well after February was over. Before we get into the Hibino though, I do want to say a really big thank you to everyone who watched last week's video, my stationery regrets video, and shared some of your suggestions, some of your comments. Some of you even mentioned that you were judging me as I shared my regrets, and you know what? I get it. I judge myself all the time. So I'm glad to hear that some of my reflections resonated with you. And I'm actually thinking about doing a follow-up video after I've had some time to really sit with your suggestions and play around and experiment with the items before I make a final call on whether I want to rehome them or keep them. There's a show in Canada called Love It or List It, where people who are thinking about selling their home for whatever reason have a realtor come in who shows them new houses and gives them an opportunity to imagine what it might be like to move into a new space. And then there's also a designer who designs, or I guess renovates, their home to see if at the end of the show the homeowners decide to love the home and stay or list it and move. And I don't know how true, I'm not sure how much of the show is realistic, but the concept I've always found to be very fascinating. And I think I want to do the same thing with a lot of the items that I mentioned I had an issue with for one reason or another, and just to see if I can fall in love with it again, because there was something, whether it was impulse or not, that caused me to buy those items. And I really want to give them another chance. So let me know if you have any questions, or feel free to continue sharing your suggestions, and watch out for that video in the future. I do have a couple of very, very quick follow-ups, and if you don't want to listen to this, then go ahead and skip to the flip through. I will leave a timestamp in the description. So the first one is a little bit embarrassing, but it relates to these beautiful Twisbees. And so many of you suggested, after me talking about how much I love the nib in this one, but how I preferred the look of this one, so many of you suggested that I just swap the nibs. And I'm going to be honest with you, that did not occur to me at all. So this is why I'm really grateful for this community, because even though it may have been a really obvious solution, for one reason or another, it just wasn't obvious to me. I have swapped nibs before. This is my Lamy Safari, and I originally bought this in an extra fine, but I have since bought a fine nib and a medium nib so that I could play around with different nib sizes to see if they were more suited to me. And right now I have this inked in a medium nib, and I've got the Pilot Iroshizuku Toro. I got a sample of that recently from Wonder Pens, and I'm just having a lot of fun playing around with that medium nib. So this is a really easy swap to make, but I am a little intimidated about swapping these nibs. So I did get a lot of really great suggestions about changing the piston, not just the nib. So I need to watch a few videos and build up my confidence before I attempt doing that. But I wanted to share that because maybe I'm the only person who didn't think of this, but it was one of those, like, how could I not have thought of that? So anyway, I wanted to share that, and thank you everyone for your suggestions and for your advice. The next one was very interesting, and so I wanted to share. So you all know that I talked about this 5-year cover and how I was feeling kind of uninspired in it. A few suggestions I got. One of them was, why not put patches all over the cover, which I love because obviously I am a huge fan of these patches all over my TN. So I do actually have some old patches that my partner collected in his childhood. And when we were in Perth, we were doing some decluttering, and he was happy to leave the patches in a box and not look at them again. But I grabbed all of them and brought them home. So that is one place that I thought I could maybe put the patches on, although I was also thinking about putting the patches in a frame and framing it on our walls. So we'll see, but the idea is wonderful and I will definitely consider it. I've also got a suggestion of conditioning the leather, and I love that idea, but I do need to do some more research on it because I tried to condition the inner cover of another leather cover that I had that I spilled ink on. I think it was last year, maybe the year before. And it ruined the leather. And I'm positive that this was user error on my part. I just don't think that I had the right technique. I was using Renapure. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it made me very nervous to use leather conditioner. So I will have to do some research, but that's another option. And then what I have been doing this year is I have been leaving this out on my coffee table so the sun can get on it. And results have varied. I don't think it has darkened that much, but maybe after doing it consistently for a year, sometimes I leave it with the front cover up. Sometimes I leave it with the back cover up. Maybe in a year it'll have darkened. The last one is somebody asked me if my 5-year would fit in this A5 TSL portfolio. And I am so excited to let you know that it fits perfectly. Like, it's not tight at all. I mean, my 5-year is pretty thin. I don't keep it that thick, although I am starting to put more ephemera in here. And now that I'm in my 4th year, I'm not feeling as, I'm not feeling like I have to be as strict about keeping it as lean as possible. But yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised that it fits so well. Like, you could fit the 5-year in here, and you can also fit pens if you want, or you can fit other ephemera. So the only thing about putting it in here is that every time I want to use the book, I have to take it out, then use it, which isn't a big deal. And it feels actually a lot smaller in my hand compared to when it's in the leather 5-year cover. So I'm not sure. I might try it out for a week or two just to see how I feel about it. But what a great suggestion. That never occurred to me to try that out. So to the person that suggested it, thank you for encouraging me to try and just getting me excited about having another use for this. Even if I don't ultimately keep this as a 5-year portfolio cover, I still think it's a great idea. Like, I could take this to a cafe with me and just put all of the, like, I could probably put my phone in here and a pen in here and just have a really nice 5-year journaling session catch up. Like, I think that would be so fun. So I'm definitely getting more excited about different uses for this, and I'm just really grateful for the suggestion. So thank you. Thank you so much. I do often get questions about the cover that I'm using for my Hibino. So this is the Poder Stroll, and it is a collaboration between Yoshida and Company and Hobonichi. So if you are looking to purchase this, then I would look at any retailer that sells Hobonichi products. I got mine directly from Hobonichi, but I've also seen many retailers sell this as well. So I really like it because it's very lightweight. It's I think if this were made of leather, it would be much heavier. And the Hibino is quite a thick book already, so I really appreciate how light this is. And you can see it has quite a large capacity. So I really love this, and it does come with an extra crossbody strap. So sometimes when I'm going grocery shopping, I will add the strap on and wear it kind of like a purse. And when I'm at home, I keep the strap off because I do find that it affects the writing experience. So that's something to keep in mind if you are curious about this cover. In the front right now, I just have a passport sticker release insert, and I just like tucking that in here. So on the inside, not a lot has changed since the last flip through. I have added a few more stickers onto the inside cover, and I still have all my stencils and my Traveler's brass pencil. So let's take a look. I am sad to report that I still have not done anything with the future log, not because I don't have enough ideas. I actually have a lot of ideas that were generated from you, but mostly because I was sick in February and I really didn't engage with this book as much in February as I did in January. So I was mostly just focused on trying to get better. And so, yeah, maybe by the next flip through, I will have something to show you. But right now I do not. And this was how my February month turned out. And you can see here, I had a lot less to index compared to January, and we will definitely talk about that. Couple updates to my steps and workout tracker. You can see here there were quite a few days where I did not do any exercise. That was a reflection of when I was sick. And then I also marked that down in my sleep tracker because being sick impacted my sleep the most out of anything here. Added a few more recipes to my recipe log. And then let me take you to February. Okay. So this is the week that was just before February. So February 1st is technically on the Sunday here. And I started adding some transfer stickers. Actually, I did find a few more transfer stickers that I'd like to share with you. So somebody in my comments recommended Meow Illustration, and I ended up finding, I ended up finding some of them at this Canadian retailer called Banana Hand. And I actually met the owner of Banana Hand because they are in Toronto, or they're based in Toronto, and it just felt really special to be able to meet the person who's kind of bringing these stickers in. So I was able to find this Meow Illustration, which I think is really cute. And then there's also another brand called TU, and these are some examples of the transfer stickers. I've been really lucky in finding these, and you'll see in the pages that I've had fun adding some transfer stickers, mostly to my weekly pages. Oh, so these are still January. Let me just jump you ahead to February. Okay. So yeah, so you can see I have added a lot more transfer stickers. And again, I really love these because they don't add a lot of bulk to the pages overall, and I really like that. Here is an example of what my pages honestly tend to look like. Usually I put my schedule on the side here, and it doesn't always have a lot of events. So usually this is pretty empty, and then my to-do list is sort of in this middle column here, but it's very rare that my to-do list is so long that it needs to go all the way to the bottom of the page, and I don't think it ever has. So usually this is pretty empty, and then this section has kind of turned into my notes for the day. So it's whatever happens during this day that I want to take note of. And I find that this is actually enough room. So even though I have this whole extra page, it's very, very rare that I'm taking so many notes throughout the day that I need this page as well. But if I were to try to squish all of this into my A6 Hobonichi, I think a day like this it would fit. But there are some other days where I feel like I could use more room. So I do really appreciate how much room I have here. And I will take notes on anything throughout the day. Like this is, I had an allergy reaction to one of my allergy shots. And I basically just wrote down what happened, when that happened. Like I had to stay at the doctor's office for an extra period so that they could monitor me. And then we kind of talked about our plan for my allergy shots after that. So I really like having this kind of thing here. And actually this should be written down in my... Yeah, so I actually wrote that down in my symptom tracker. So you can see that I made a note of when I reacted to my allergy shot, and I put that in relation to my skin. So that's how I use the symptom tracker. That's how I'm able to kind of reference things. So if I'm looking at this and I want to look up a certain event, then I know, okay, February 2, then I can go here and I can see more detail about that. So that's another way that I like to use that symptom tracker. So I just have a recipe here. And you can see here we have a blank page, but I do have some notes on a few calls that I made that day and the outcome of those calls. So I really like using this as a call log as well, whether it's for personal calls, friendly calls, but also life, like these are health related calls or business calls. So yeah, I really love having this extra space here. This is a list of all the people who signed up for NaCoWriMo and some of the information that I wanted to reference when I was writing the letters. So for example, favorite colors, their preferred palette, and in my NaCoWriMo sign up form, I asked everyone what was one nice thing they did for themselves. And it was so heartwarming to read everyone's response. I did copy them out here, and I was able to use this as a basis for writing a letter to everyone. And then this is where I start using the blank pages for other notes. So if it's too bad I couldn't show you the empty page, but if you can imagine comparing to something like this, you can see the brown kind of represents work-related or to-do list stuff. So here, this day would have been just my to-do list here, and then Coconut's medications. But then the rest of this day would have been all blank. And so what I've been doing is I've been using a different colored pen to take notes on one specific topic. And I've added a title in the top here so that I know what it refers to. And I use this different colored ink so that you can see I continued on. This helps a little bit with continuity. So I ran out of space here, but I continued here, and I was able to update the title and just continue my notes. So even though it's a little bit like you're kind of flipping through a few pages, I find that having a different colored ink is one way for me to be able to continue using these pages and be able to keep track of things, if that makes sense. And then in the middle here, you can see my to-do list was only this long, and I really didn't take any notes for the day. So this would have been a completely blank page otherwise. And this is an example of me just wanting to have fun. I happen to ink up a lot of pens for NaCoWriMo so that I had a lot of variety to write with in my letters. And I just wanted to write out my thoughts on the different inks and pens that I had inked up. And I just had a lot of fun filling out this page. So even though the Hibino was kind of meant to be mostly like a workbook or a functional book, I've really enjoyed having the space to kind of have fun or to be a little more playful. And so not all of the pages are strictly about work, because one thing that I've realized in using this now for 2 months is there are some days when my lists are very long and there are some days when I have lots of notes. But more often than not, I also have days where I don't really have a big to-do list. Sometimes actually when I'm really busy, I kind of just know what I need to do and I don't really need to write a list. It's actually when I have a lot of small things that I don't want to forget that I really lean into my to-do list. Or if I'm feeling really anxious and overwhelmed, then having a space to write down what to do is kind of like a small action that can kickstart momentum for me. But other times when I just know what I need to do and I have a lot to do, I really don't need this. So I love being able to find different ways to fill up the pages, because for me, I really love a full page. Like, this is very satisfying to me. I just love that it's all full. So one of the ways that I've been able to use up blank pages. This was blank, but then I was able to use this to make notes for a YouTube video. And then I like to use some of these pages as well for when I get ink samples from friends. This was a really lovely and kind package from a patron who sent me a number of ink samples and 2 ink bottles from Birmingham Pen Co. So whenever I get inks, I like to document them in here. And I just think that's a really fun way to brighten out my pages without needing to use stickers or having to do anything that takes a lot of time. Like, I would love to be artistic enough to draw in here and add doodles, but I just don't really have that kind of time right now. But I do have time to swatch out some inks, especially if I'm swatching them out anyway and I have all my tools out. So we have another recipe. So the brown ink is kind of like work notes. I've got letter mail rates because I needed this for sending letters during NaCoWriMo. I love to do little ink thoughts. I do this throughout my book as well. Whenever I ink a pen, I like to write out ink thoughts just to kind of document, I guess, the combination. And then here, my mother was having knee replacement surgery, and so I used this page to copy out all of the pre-screening notes in anticipation for the operation. And then I just have a section here where I'm writing out my thoughts and observations post, like, since the operation. And she's doing very well, which is such a relief. Here is an example of a day where I needed a lot more space to take notes. So we had a follow-up consultation with our vet dermatologist, and we always get a lot of notes and a lot of things to remember and a lot of different medications and different schedules. And so I find it really helpful to have it all in one place. And then I can use the book to actually kind of plan out which medication on which day in this top corner. So I have found this extremely helpful, having a pre-dated planner so that I can plan medication schedules and things like that has been so helpful, because otherwise I don't know how I would keep up with all of the things that we need to do. And I like to leave room here in case I need to come back and add more notes. I do like having this extra space just in case I need it. These are some notes from the last video, the stationery that I regret purchasing. And you can see here, like if this didn't exist, this would be a completely blank page, and it would just be Coconut's medication schedule, and that's it. This is part of the video. So all of this was added in, like a week ago? So this was the 13th of February, and this was blank for almost a month. But I love that I was able to go back and just use this blank space for something after the fact. So even though at the end of February I had a lot of blank pages, I do like being able to go back and make use of it. Okay, so this is another example of how I was able to use these notes pages almost like a notebook. All I had was Coconut's medication schedule, but then this entire day was blank. I think this is when I was sick, so let me just double check. Yeah, so this is kind of when I was recovering from being sick. And you can see like there weren't really a lot of things that I needed to use these pages for. And honestly, I wasn't stressed about it. I would have expected, because I struggle with perfectionism, I thought these blank pages were going to stress me out. I don't know. I guess my mindset was, I have all these blank pages that when I need them, I can use them to my advantage. Because I think when I had blank pages in my A6 original, they were still kind of small, so I couldn't take notes on an article like I did here. Unfortunately, my video cut out during my recording, so I'm reattempting to film the last bit of this video. I had this article that I had read about The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost, and I had a certain interpretation of the poem, but this article shared a different interpretation of the poem, which I thought was really interesting. And so I had it open on a tab in my computer for several weeks. And finally, I thought, why not just copy that out? Because either it'll just stay as a tab in my internet browser for weeks and the information will eventually get lost, or I could copy it out into here and be able to reference it whenever I want to. And so I used a different colored pen so that I could use that as a bit of continuity, since I would be using different blank spaces. You can see like it continues here, it continues in this column, and then it jumps over here, and then it ends over here. And I really like that because I was able to use all this space to copy out this very long article. But I also was able to do that around the functional stuff. So on this day, I had Coconut's meds, I had my to-do list, I had some notes related to the vet, but then I had all this blank space for that article later. This would have been blank for several weeks before I came back and used up these pages. But I'm really happy with how this turned out, because now I get to keep this article forever, but it doesn't have to live on my computer in a tab anymore. So it feels lighter in a way, like almost like I was decluttering my computer. And I could still use all of these pages for notes on the actual day. So I really love that. And I left this blank so I could add my own interpretation and thoughts after digesting this article a little more. And then over here, similarly, I did some reading into polyvagal theory, which was a topic that I've had some clients ask me about. And so I wanted to learn a little more about it. And I used a different color ink so that I would know that anything in this kind of purple color, which is Tono and Lim's and Yoseka's collaboration is called Scent of Lavender, and this was an ink sample gifted to me by Sarah. I used that color throughout here so that so I knew that what it related to. And it was really helpful because whenever I write things down, it just helps me process things more easily. And if I'm wanting to maybe incorporate some of these ideas or related interventions into the work that I'm doing, then I really like to get a good understanding of it. So you can see I took quite a few notes, and that actually takes us all the way to the end of February. So this was very helpful, and I've actually gone back and reread my notes several times. So I just love that it's all in here, and when I need it, I have it right here. And then I just want to go back to this page here. So this was a really fun page. I had quite a blank space. You can see I only had Coconut's medication schedule at the top here. And I used some stamps from Nicole Josephine. This is one of her little like frame set stamps. And I made like little gallery walls of ink samples that I prepared for two of my pen friends. This was really fun. And I knew that I wanted to document the inks that I was sending them anyway, because if I send them a package in the future, I would like to know what I sent previously so that I don't send the same inks again. And so I thought this was just a really fun way to brighten up this book, but also be a little more creative and playful, because I think that this book is ultimately just going to be a lot more fun to be in if I have these moments of joy and playfulness. So I really enjoyed putting together this spread. I really love looking at all of these inks, and I love that this is kind of sandwiched in between meeting notes, work notes, study notes. I just think it's really fun to have this integrated in as well. If I had done this flip through on March 1st, you would have seen a lot of blank pages. And the most surprising thing for me was that I wasn't stressed about it. I do really like having full pages. That is perhaps a quirk of mine. I consider myself a bit of a maximalist. And I would have thought that having all these blank pages would have made me feel stressed, or I would have put pressure on myself to fill them out. But I really am surprised that I didn't feel that. And I think if anything, I just know that this is going to be a very fluid, kind of organic book. And like, if you look at my March pages, I have quite a lot of blank pages already. And I'm not too stressed about it, because I know that I will find a way to use up these pages. I think when I had all these blank pages, it really opened up the possibility for me to actually use this to take notes on something that was a little more dense. And even with this article, I wouldn't have been able to take notes on this in my Hobonichi A6. Maybe in my cousin, but not my A6. So I'm just loving how this has evolved and what I'm putting in here, because I just think it's going to be such a lovely space to look back on. So it's not just work notes, it becomes something more, like a planner plus extras, I guess. And yeah, I'm really loving it. I've also been using my stamps a little more frequently, just because I do have a lot of cute stamps and I'm trying to lean into using them. I think getting sick and not really using my book at all on certain days, except for maybe, opening up to the page to see Coconut's medication schedule, it unlocked a bit of a freedom in that I had so many blank pages that I was able to use them in other ways that has just made this even more valuable to me as a book. And yeah, I just think having these dated pages is so key. Like, find myself sometimes curious about the undated Hibino that has been released. I don't think it's available in North America yet, but I do know that it's available at least in Japan. But what I really love about this is I can go ahead and put dates in the future that I want to remember, like this is all the way in April. And I don't know, I used to do this kind of thing in my Google Calendar, but for some reason, it's like I'm blind to electronic notifications. I think we just get so many of them throughout the day that I end up not being able to, like, they almost lose their importance for me. And so having something in here, I put it in the daily. So when I get to this day, I have a reminder. But then I also put it in my weekly. So as I'm planning for the week, I have these reminders for myself on certain things. So I don't know. This is just working out so well for me. And I love that I can do a favor to my future self when it comes to like medication schedules. If I know I have things in the future, I can add things to my to-do list in advance. But then I can also go back and fill in all the spaces with other things that I might want to refer to. And the way that I have been keeping track of it in my index in February is here I have polyvagal theory and I put February 20th to 27th. So I know that this kind of spans from the 20th to the 27th. And I can go to the 20th and I see that it's purple, and then I can just keep reading until the purple essentially runs out. And I know I could do this in a separate book as well, but I think the beauty of this book is that it's just one book. And so if I happen to be at the office and I maybe want to reference something, then I can just go here and quickly reference my notes on this topic. And I just find that easier than even opening up my laptop and having to do like a search to find maybe my notes, like my electronic notes. Nothing wrong with electronic notes. I keep electronic notes as well, but I just find I operate faster when I can flip through paper, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with this approach, and I think this is just working out so well for me. So I was excited to share with you. But yeah, I think that is everything that I wanted to share with you today. So let me know if you have any questions. I would love to know how you fill up your blank pages, if you do at all, or do you just leave them and move on? What is your approach there when you get sick? And look out for a part 2 of my stationery regrets video. I'm going to play around with the items. I'm going to try out some of your suggestions, and I will share an honest follow-up. I just want to give myself some time to experiment and see how I feel about these things and whether I will fall in love with them again, because there was a reason I bought them in the first place. Even if it was impulsive, there was a reason, and I want to give myself a chance to reevaluate everything before I decide if I want to rehome these things. That is everything from me today. If you're still here, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon in the next video.